Welcome back to ReadingBear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, "They tried to take my job, so I took theirs." Treat others how you want to be treated. This happened last year. I was about 6 months into a food service job at the time. I worked in my university's cafeteria prepping and serving food to the students. After closing, I took about 45 minutes to finish cleaning up my station and took another 10 to finish up one of my co-workers' sections that she needed a bit of help with. My supervisor had left just after closing to God knows where, leaving the rest of us to our devices as he usually did. He was more the watch and rule type. After I had finished, I took a quick 5-minute trip to the bathroom as I usually did around this time every day. As I happily walked to the back to assist in helping the others finish so we could all leave, I hear a cough behind me. The sound of the calm before the storm. I ignore it, thinking nothing of it, and go on my way. I hear a more abrupt "ehum" and I stop and turn on my heel to meet the shift supervisor's cold gaze, his hands crossed over his puffed chest in his regal stance. I give him a questioning look as he looks on, expecting me to read his mind. "Supervisor, a half an hour?" He asks calmly, but with a sour tinge to his tone. Me, confused, I chuckle, "Huh?" This was apparently the worst thing I could have done. "Supervisor, you were in the bathroom for half an hour?" he yelled, stomping his royal foot. I was taken aback as he had never come at me with a sideways tone before. I thought we were cool, but I should have known better seeing how he treated my co-workers. I was so shocked I just stood there, staring at him like he grew 3 horns. I didn't feel the need to defend myself at the moment as I knew the words he was spitting my way was pure BS. "Supervisor, do you like your job?" he demanded from me. I did not, in fact, like my job. I had trouble holding back my smile at this thought as he yelled some more things I don't remember as my ears had gone numb to his screeching at this point. I knew he had no power to fire me and I hadn't even seen his mug for the past hour. I knew his words had no consequence. I had nothing to say to his tantrum, and as soon as he realized that, he dismissed me. I have trouble egging people on when they are being so irrational, so generally, I stay quiet and let them get out their baby fit. I quickly went back to my work and started scheming about how I could get back at this man. Over the next week, I compiled photo evidence of him slacking on the job, serving undercooked food, and statements from my co-workers about their individual experiences where he ridiculed or threatened them, and I took it straight to my boss that Friday. I laid out all of my evidence and my personal encounter, which they would be able to check the cameras and identify both of our whereabouts that day and could see who truly was off duty for a half an hour. I didn't think much would come of it as I was a relatively new worker and honestly I didn't care about anything that happened to that hellhole. I let it slip from my mind for the weekend. The next Monday, I come in before most and start setting up. After a while the general manager comes out of the back with the supervisor following her like a puppy, staring at his feet. He walks sheepishly up to me and invites me to sit with him at one of the tables in the cafeteria where he admits to me that he was in the wrong, shouldn't have yelled at me like that, should be a better leader, is super duper sorry, all that yada, yada. I sat there with the biggest grin on my face as he practically groveled at my feet, begging for forgiveness as his boss watched on, this man that sat so high on his horse for the past 6 months. I watched on in celebration as he then apologized to each of my co-workers individually. Not but a week later, he was demoted to a backroom cook and I had been given the role of the shift supervisor. We never had a problem after that and he was a generally okay guy. I hope he really did learn his lesson and didn't say all those things just to get it over with. Either way, this was the sweetest revenge of my life. I have since quit that job and work for a company with people who actually know how to respect others as individuals, whether their position is below or above their own. The next one is titled, "Nothing Moves Without Your Permission." Running the store is going to be problematic. 4 years ago, I worked in a store for a large, well-known, and well-hated telecom in Canada. I started out as a sales rep, then was quickly promoted to assistant manager because I'm a fast learner. I constantly crushed sales targets and always offered to train staff for new store openings. Joe, the regional manager, seemed to like me and was nice, which I thought was because I'm the only woman in a store with all men. But tenured sales reps warned me that he was always nice to sales reps and rude to managers. One day, our store manager, SM, Rick, gets fired for skipping work to watch a hockey game. He was actually seen on TV in the front row stands cheering after calling in too sick to move, and a few co-workers went out with him afterward where he drunkenly bragged about calling in sick to see said hockey game. Joe didn't hire a new SM because of the cost, so he asked me to run the store but without the title or pay. No problem, I love my job and the staff. I even come in on my days off to make sure the staff are okay and check on supplies. I'm also the first black ASM in the region in ages, so I felt like I had something to prove. A few months go by, and a customer comes in wanting to open up a small business account with 6 lines. I verify the company is real, credit check, HST number, etc. and process the sale for her, 4 black iPhone 7s, a rose gold iPhone 7 Plus, and a BlackBerry. It's a massive commission for me and an even bigger commission for Joe. Joe comes to the store the next day wanting to talk about the sale. I thought I messed up along the way, or it got flagged for fraud. Nope. He was upset that I sold the store's last rose gold iPhone 7 Plus instead of holding onto it because he wanted to take it out of inventory to give it to his daughter. For free. Which is against company policy. And the rose gold iPhone 7 Plus was on backorder. I tell him that it's better for us to sell the phone, and I didn't know he wanted to take it out of inventory to give away and it's against company policy anyway. What happens next is this grown idiot, 6 feet 5 inches man throws a tantrum. I'm talking fists balled up at the sides, shrieking, "You don't run anything here. This is my store. You're not the store manager. My name is on file as store manager and regional manager. Nothing happens in this store without my say-so. Nobody breathes unless I say so." I calmly straighten out my uniform and nod, thinking, "You run crap, and I just work here. Got it. Alright, Denzel, you gone, learn today." He leaves, and the other staff ask what the duck that yelling was about. I say, "Well, boys, I don't run crap. I just work here. If you need anything, and I literally mean anything at any time, call Joe." I stopped ordering, scheduling, etc. and did nothing for the next 2 days before my previously scheduled upcoming 4 days off. Day 1 of my day off, and one of the staff call me in a panic. I noticed there's only 1 roll of toilet paper left. "Can you stop by and order more?" I said, "Nope, sorry. Call Joe if you need anything, and don't call me on my days off anymore." Click. My staff support me and ring Joe's phone non-stop for those 4 days with the most mundane crap. "Hey Joe, we're out of toilet paper. Can you get us some?" "Hi Joe, the windows are dirty. What should I do?" "Yo, Joe, what's the schedule for next week?" "Thick like grits didn't make one." "Yeah, Joe? We're trying to process a bring your own device (COAM) monthly plan, but I don't remember what the dummy IMEI is, and I can't continue in the system without it." "What is it?" "Hey Joe, we're out of SIM cards, so we can't process any more sales involving phones at all." "Hey Joe, we're on our last few sheets of printing paper, so we can't print contracts." "Hey Joe, I came in early to set up the new marketing, but I noticed there's a light bulb out in one of the fixtures. What do I do?" "Joe? Andy left roast chicken bones and cake in the break area out overnight, and now the store is overrun by ants. Please send help." Joe calls and texts me non-stop, but I'm off for the next 4 days, so I ignore everything, sit at home, bake some cookies, spend time with my boyfriend, now husband, hit another mall and go shopping, get my nails done, get my hair done, and relish in the thought of Joe's stupid face stressed the duck out at an ant infestation and his stupid eyes bulging out of his head every time my staff call asking for toilet paper. I come in for my next shift, relaxed, fresh silk-pressed hair, and killer nails, and Joe is already waiting for me in the back. Thick like grits, why is the staff calling and asking me ridiculous questions the last few days? Why are we running out of critical supplies that hold sales? Me, well, Joe, you told me that nothing moves without your say-so and that I don't run anything in the store, you do. So, I told them if they need anything, to call you, the person who runs the store. Cue the confused Pikachu look on his face. Not like that, I mean like, just please run the store as you see fit. There are ants everywhere, and the floors are sticky. And I brought you guys some SIM cards." He scurries out of the store. I graduated from university that year and applied for a role at head office. Joe got upset and said he didn't want to lose me at the store and dangled the thought of making me store manager if I stayed. Oh well, at that point, I just wanted out. I aced the interviews and got hired. I've been here ever since, and I never have to interact with Joe. The next one is titled, I'll have that candy stocked for you. A few years ago, I was working at a fabric store. One of my favorite places to be. But there was one manager that I didn't get on with. Not sure why, but this manager had some sort of problem with me. Since day one, the main boss would put me somewhere in the store, and this other one would come in, counter the big boss's orders, and then spend the rest of the shift coming up to me and telling me to stock the candy every 5 minutes. And I do mean every 5 minutes. Ordinarily, this takes about 3 minutes, and it's just basic busy work to do between customers. Not this time. So, it's the day of darkness in the retail world, more commonly known as Black Friday. Not only are we slammed, but we also have to upsell this new promotional item. We were literally getting marks against us if we didn't sell a certain number that day. The lines were long, and it was just one customer after another, with no lull in between. By the end of the sales time, every shelf was empty. Now, I am by no means perfect, but I try to make sure I do all of what my job entails. Part of the cashier's job was keeping the front shelves stocked, and everything for that was behind the counter. There was nothing in the mythical back room. And even if there was, the Xmas stuff had started coming in, and for some reason, this manager thought the best way to store it would be to put it in the direct middle of the hallway that was the back room and effectively blocks all of the regular merchandise. There were about 2 feet of aisle to walk down one side of the room, but that's it. Not relevant, but annoying. So, the other cashier and I had cleaned up everything, restocked the shelves, and there was nothing left up front but one box of Necco wafers and seasonal soaps. The candy was decimated, but there was nothing to put there. So, we both chalked it up to a job well done, but we weren't allowed to leave the register that day. It had slowed down considerably, and we both had about 2 hours of shift left. So, we were just talking, attending to the few customers that still trickled through and generally attempting to wind down from the insanity. So, of course, this manager comes through and tells me specifically to stock candy. I try to explain that there isn't any backstock, and she waves me off and repeats to stock candy. I spend a few minutes double checking that there isn't more stock, but nope, it hasn't magically reproduced behind the counter. Okay, guess it's stocked. Apparently not, as the manager comes back a few minutes later and tells me to stock it again. My coworker tries to explain and gets cut off with a, "Temp, you need to stock it. I want those shelves full, don't stop until they are." Okay, sure. Full shelves. Now, this has been months of her generally trying to get me to do most of the work in the store. This manager was having me do a lot of her own work, double if she found out I was having a health issue, and I was tired of it. My doctor was already telling me I had to leave for my own health, so I wasn't feeling generous. I told my coworker what I was going to do, and she backed me up. I stocked those shelves. These tiny little candy shelves were stocked full of anything I could find behind the counter. Those Necco wafers, soaps, various items from the promo shelves. I even fit a couple of steam irons on the top ones. I apologized to customers for the wait because I couldn't stop until those shelves were full. The manager came up, red in the face, and ready to start yelling, but I was saved by the fact that there were customers there at the time. I checked my watch, grinned, waved, and my coworker and I walked to the back and clocked out. I never went back. Shopped there a few times since, and that manager is gone. The last one is titled, I sent my abusive mother to jail 3 times and sentenced her to a life of prostitution and homelessness. Backstory, my mother was always a narcissist. When I was born, my father separated from my mother and gained full custody of me and never allowed me to get close to my mother. Everything was happy until my mother was sent to therapy to make a better person. When she finished her therapy, she sent my father to court to get the joint custody she earned. My father was not happy, but I trust that my mother changed, and my mind as an innocent 10-year-old thought that it would be fun to spend time with my mother. My dad went on a business trip and left me with my mother for 3 months. It was the worst 3 months of my life. My mother treated me like a servant, and she was physically and mentally abusive. I was full of hope when the day my father came to take me with him. My mother's family came to visit, only my grandmother and my cousin. When my grandmother was talking to my mother, she asked her why he was doing the dishes. My mother, "It's just a little punishment for breaking my favorite vase." My grandma, "Oh okay." My grandmother's face was a strange gesture, as if she knew what was really happening. After finishing my punishment, my grandmother called me to talk to her. She checked my body from head to toe and discovered many bruises. "Grandmother, is everything okay with your mother, Santi?" Me, silence GM, come on Santi, you know you can tell what you want to your grandma. You don't have to be quiet me, mum. At that moment my father came to the house and I cried to hug him. My mother greeted my father and announced that lunch would be ready in a few moments. Me, grandmother, my mother has been very bad with me this week, she beats me and insults me all the time. Please get me out of here. My father, who was close to hear everything. I could see the face of my grandmother and my father stunned. Grandmother, Jessica, come here right now. Mother, what happens mother? Grandmother, why are you hitting my grandson? I trust you old change, but why are you still the same old crap? Mother, but mother, I would never do that. My dad, my child is not a bag to mistreat or someone who receives your insult and be your servant damn be *tch. My mother, cry and scream my dad, I'll call the police. My mother, no, please no, I am going to change. Grandmother, we already gave you an opportunity. The police came and handcuffed my mother. Although I was a child, I was very happy that she received a castigo for everything she did to me, went to court and received 3 years in prison. Let's go 5 years. At that time I was 14 years old and my mother was coming to visit me. According to my grandmother, the jail had changed my mother. She knocked on the door and I opened it. I gave her a fake smile and hugged her. She told me that she had a boyfriend and that they were having problems with money to pay the rent, pay bills and buy food. She did not regret what was happening. I still had a grudge for what she did to me. At one point, I went to the bathroom and left her alone in the house. I thought she could steal something, but it was useless since there were security cameras in the house. I got out of the bathroom and heard some strange noises. I went stealthily to see what was happening and I saw her taking $500 from my piggy bank. Think about calling her the attention. But it was a better idea to go to my room as if nothing had happened. I went in and she said she was looking at my room and I said no problem, wait for her to leave so I can see the cameras. When my father arrived from work I told him that I was going to check the cameras and falsely surprised I showed him the recording where my mother stole money from me. My father called my mother and shouted that he could not believe that she dared to steal from her son. He told my mother to return the money or he would involve the police. My mother came to my house but only returned $150 and said when she get money she would give me what was missing. My father accepted very angry. I took the moment to call the police. I was not going to allow the B*tch who mistreated and robbed me not to receive a punishment. The police arrived and she spent 6 months in prison for robbery after 3 years without knowing anything about my mother. My grandmother told me that she had married a millionaire man and that she was raising a 9-year-old stepson. I very much suspected that my mother was mistreating her stepson, but everything changed when I met my mother's husband and stepson. Her stepson had no trace of bruising or psychological abuse, so I thought everything was fine. My mother's husband was away from the city, so I stayed at his house for 2 weeks to meet my mother's stepson Alex. Before I left I asked Alex if his mother was hitting him. Alex tried to avoid the question, but in the end he answered. My suspicions were true. My mother was the same B*tch as always. In the end my mother's husband divorced her and she went to prison for 2 years. The last thing I know about her is that she is prostituting and lives on the street. I don't regret condemning her to a horrible life. She got the karma she deserved for mistreating children. Thanks for listening.